Hey, this is Artie Cabrera.
This is Sarah Nofke.
This is Stefan Boltz.
This is S. Elliot Brandis, and you're listening to 30
Minute
Author Interviews
with Preston Lay.
Woohoo! Welcome, everybody, to this episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews. Our guest today is author Justin Sloan. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to start out this podcast a little bit differently. You're going to be my guinea pig for this. We're going to start a segment called Two Truths and a Lie. And I want you to tell me two truths and a lie, and I'm going to try to figure out which one is the lie and see how awful I am at this game. So if you don't mind, go ahead with your two truths and one lie.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I had some set up right before this, and then you asked me the question until I forget, but let's just wing it.
There we go. Let's wing it.
I was so ready. Let's see. Okay. So when I was in the Marines, I went to Iraq 2 times. Let's see. I went and studied abroad at Johns Hopkins in D.C. and studied international relations. And that had a class about the Peloponnesian War, and that started that was the impetus for the first book I ever wrote. And let's see. This is so hard. I didn't think it was gonna be so hard. I'm like, let's do it. I'm fine. And then I had 3 things, and then they just vanished. It's so weird. Okay. My mother-in-law from Kyrgyzstan is staying with us right now for a month.
Okay, let's see.
This is such a weird thing for me. It's for all your listeners. I'll just tell them that I encouraged you to do this because I thought it'd be no problem.
Right. I am going to go with. I'm trying to think of some of the other podcasts I've heard you on and stuff. I'm going to go with number 3 about your mother-in-law from Kyrgyzstan living with you for a month is a lie. Really? Dang it.
Wrong.
Dang it.
Yeah. So, am I supposed to tell you the truth now?
Yes.
Or how does that work? Okay.
Go ahead.
The lie, I mean.
Go ahead and tell us which one was the lie.
The lie was the first one. I was in the Marines, but I did not go to Iraq at all.
I knew you were in the Marines. Dang it.
Yeah. See, the little truth to the lie.
Yeah. And then
also later I'll email you my good ones that I had in mind before we started, once I remember.
Sounds good. Well, for those that might not know anything about you, besides what we just learned from Two Truths and a Lie, why don't you tell them kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So let's see. So I write screenplays, novels, video games, and my claim to fame is that I was at Telltale Games for 2 years. I left a couple months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, actually already. It's like time. Where does it go? And, so there I was writing games like Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Michonne, Minecraft Story Mode, and Tales from the Borderlands. And then since then, I did some freelance work for this thing called Episode that Pocket Gems does, and some consulting for a Russian game company. And I'm doing something else really cool right now that I can't talk about, but it's really amazing. It's kind of like an adaptation of a video game.
Nice.
Yeah, so suspense.
Still suspense.
In 6 months, we'll put it in the show notes. So you have to come back and listen to this episode, everybody. Just keep checking in.
There we go. That'll work. I heard you on with Geeks of a Certain Age with Hank Garner and Chris Porto when you teased them about that little fact, too.
Yeah, I'm a big tease.
Darn, I was hoping maybe we could go there, but I guess not.
Well, some progress has been made on that, and we're about a little more than halfway done with the first part of it. And once that's out, then I'm sure we'll be able to talk about it. So in theory, not too long of a wait, because when I was on that show, which was not that long ago, I hadn't even started it really.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
we'll have to have you back on to talk about it then.
Yeah. Oh, and so the rest of the story is, so I write novels and screenplays. We're adapting, we just finished adapting John L. Monk's novel Kick. It's called Kick. We just finished adapting that into a TV drama pilot. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, it could be really awesome. It's about a guy who basically wakes up in the bodies of different serial killers and has to set things right or stop them or kill them or whatever before moving on to the next body. So kind of Quantum Leap meets Dexter.
I have heard so much good stuff about that book, but it's on my to-be-read list.
And he has his books have like 300 reviews each or something like this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe that one has like 150. I don't know, but they have a lot. So that shows that people love them because they do. And they love him because he's an awesome guy. And then I'm also doing some freelance or some non-freelance stuff for military.com, which is where I kind of get my main paycheck from right now. And that's doing articles helping other veterans transition into the civilian world.
So while you just ended on military, I got a fan question in. It's from David Bruns, and he wanted me to ask you how you went from being in the military to being a writer.
Yeah, let's see. Well, so there's a lot of roundabout answers I can give to that, of course. Well, one of the answers that I tend to, or I'm recently, actually, I don't even know if I've ever given this, but I'm going to go ahead and give it now.
Sounds
was
good.
That people kept asking, maybe I have. You guys can tell me, listeners, if you heard me talk somewhere else and if I'm repeating myself, you'll be like my wife. Stop repeating yourself. And I hate the same stories, So a lot of my experiences in the military, well, it wasn't that exciting. It was, full of interesting times and fun, nostalgic moments. And so a lot of what I try to do when I write is capture those moments. And where that kind of started with was my grandma. And this is the part I think I do tell is my grandma kept asking me for a journal or a diary or something. And I tried to write one once and I just really couldn't do it. I got like a page into it and I was like, it's not my thing. And then I decided to start writing fiction instead. And so a lot of those experiences played through, which came into that the Truth and a Lie and part there where I had taken that class on the Peloponnesian War and was like, this is awesome. I love all this ancient Greeks culture stuff. And I love all the mythology stuff. So why don't I kind of combine those, but make my own version of it, kind of like George R.R. Martin did with Game of Thrones, where he had his world, the War of the Roses and all that. Or Wars of the Roses, and he fictionalized it and made it awesome in a totally different way. And so that's what I did. And that kind of led to the whole writing thing. And then it just snowballed into craziness.
When you were young, were you a reader growing up, or is that something you did later on in your life, becoming a reader?
Oh, a reader for sure. Yeah, I've always been a reader. I love books. Yeah, I read Hunchback of Notre Dame when I was young, 12, 13. I don't know. Which is crazy because I try to read it now and I can never get through that thing for some reason. For some reason, when I was like 12 or 13, it was the best book in the world. It so blows my mind. But yeah, so I love those books and like all those classics back then. I was super into them, like the the Count of Monte Cristo. Mm-hmm. Oh, such a good story. Mm-hmm. But now same idea. Like once you study writing, you expect different things out of how things are written out of books, and back then they had a totally different writing style that just doesn't gel well with where my mind's at anymore. So back then I would read for fun and pleasure, and nowadays I do, but there's that different side of my mind that totally distorts everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, of course, I have a couple video game questions for you since you wrote on some. Another fan, Michael David Anderson, wanted to know, what is it like writing for games that adjust how to players navigate gameplay?
Mm-hmm. And what that means for people who don't know or aren't familiar with Telltale games is those games are largely about role playing. So as somebody's playing them, people are talking around you and you make choices based on what they're saying or on your own accord. So if right now you ask me that question, I have three choices. I can say, well, let me tell you, or I can say, screw you, I'm not talking, or I can say, you tell me first or something. I don't know,
Right.
Really bad decision making right there. But the idea is you get three choices that represent different parts of where my mind is at the moment as a character. And so that the player has to kind of still be very true to who that character is, or the writer has to be very true to who that character is, but coming up with three ways that could go based on how they're kind of feeling about the people around them at the moment, whether they're trusting or want to manipulate them or with something else, So what changes when you're writing that is it's a really fun experience. It could go all kinds of different directions. So that's the challenging part is you have to write out all these different scenarios. So it takes 3 or 4 or a billion times as long. And on the other side, though, it's fun as a writer because I love to explore my characters. Part of why I write is I love thinking about other people that are out there and how weird they are and how did they become that weirdo that I sit next to at work every day, and so I love to explore that. Part of, early on writing was, you break up with people and you think, wow, like, how did this all get to this point? Like, how did all the people involved, why are they doing what they did? And then I love to explore that. And so in writing, these kind of games, you get to explore all these different avenues, and you get paid for it. So that's pretty fun.
So what are the or how has writing novels helped you when you were writing video games, or vice versa? How did writing video games help you with writing your novels?
Yeah, well, I'll go with the second one first, and then remind me to answer the first one because I'll probably forget. It was going from video game, like what we were just talking about, that idea of exploring characters from different modes. What's great about that, and what I didn't really mention, is when you're doing that, you'll usually go through like 20 different scenarios first of what could be said, and then you'll explore like the top 3 that you think are the best, and the silent option too, because sometimes the character wants to not say anything. So that really forces you to go through this long list, because especially in a video game company, you have all these people who are going to give you feedback, right? So you have to be thinking, okay, I don't want to go in there and embarrass myself. So not only am I not going to use the top ones that pop into my head, but I'm going to go down the list until I feel that these are the best possible ones. And that's something I might not have done before in my writing. Like a lot of people talk about, just getting stuff on the page. And some people even say they're first draft writers, like they just write it and then they publish it. And that can work, and lots of people can make lots of money off of that. And I know people who probably are. But, if your goal is to make amazing fiction that really resonates on multiple levels and all that stuff, which you don't have to do to make money, that's fine. But that's part of my goal, and I really want to do that. I realize not all my books probably do that, but especially now, it's very much in my mind where I'm thinking, okay, don't just use the first thing that pops into my mind. Or if I do, I'll try to flag it, with like a comment, or put in a couple asterisks next to it or something. Asterisks? How do you pronounce that? I don't know.
I have no idea.
And then come back to it later. And so that I know, like, okay, this is what I'm putting now, but it's just filler, because I want to come back and make sure that shines. And that's something I definitely didn't do as much before the video game stuff, because it wasn't in my mind as much. And another part of that is the kind of idea of player agency in a video game, where whenever you're doing something, if something cool happens, you want your character to have made it happen, because that feels cool to the player. Well, I like to translate that into a book too. Like if something is like somebody's going to jump in and grab the lever and pull it, and then everything explodes, I want my main character to be the one that caused that. Maybe they're not the one who does it, but it's because of something they did that gave that next character, their non-player character, whatever, the confidence to be able to do that, or the main character does it, or in some way, I want the reader to live through the main character so that they feel like they're really living all this and they're really making it all happen.
Oh, okay.
So the other side of that, writing novels to video games, I don't know. I don't know.
That works.
I think the simple answer there is character development and all that stuff. A lot of that really plays through, but it's more the screenwriting side that helped me with video games, because screenwriting is very similar to video game writing. If you go from novel writing to video game writing, you have to learn how to get rid of all that internal dialogue stuff pretty quick.
Gotcha. Have you ever had a idea for a game when you were writing that ended up being scrapped, so you put it in one of your novels?
I wonder if I'd get in trouble if I said yes. I don't know. I will say no.
No. Okay.
I'm sure that probably has happened, but I don't really know. Like, I worked on certain games when I was there that when I left, I've definitely done novels that are related, and nothing's come across that's like the exact same thing I thought of then, but it certainly influenced some of these decision moments and whatnot. And there's a difference too, is that I'm working with co-writers now on the novels I'm doing. So sometimes I'll bring up these ideas and they'll have a totally different spin on them. And I'm like, yes, that's so much better than what I thought of originally. That's awesome. And so we end up using that. So maybe the answer is kind of.
Gotcha. Now you said that you no longer work for Telltale Games. You're now kind of focusing on writing and the military website that you have. Was there anything specific you did before you quit your job to write full time that made you more comfortable in that decision?
You mean before quitting Telltale?
Yeah.
Or before that even? Okay.
Before quitting Telltale.
Well, so there when I was at Telltale, I was there for about 6 months before one of my buddies got let go, and that terrified the crap out of me. I was like, holy balls, I could get let go any day now, and that would be it. That would have been my stint at Telltale Games. It ended up going for another year and a half. But still, I was, quite paranoid. So until that moment, I'd been doing a lot of writing, but not going anywhere with it. Like I was debating, do I self-publish, do I traditionally publish and all that? But at that moment, I was like, you know what? no, I want to get my stuff out there because I don't want to leave Telltale and just be a person who has done nothing yet except for that. And so I started publishing books. And I think by the time I left, I had like 10 novels, including kids' stories, so not like 500-page novels, but 10 novels published and a couple of nonfiction books. And all of that happened from about that 6-month moment until why I left. And that was a big part of it. Also, I've always been somebody who believes in setting yourself up for opportunities. So I took the UCLA screenwriting program. They have a 1-year program you can do online. You do it via Skype with people like one night a week for 4 hours or something like that. It's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And I'd done other programs before that and whatnot. But yeah, I basically set myself up to where I would be a published author by the time I left and hopefully have some screenwriting stuff in play, which I did and ended up happening real quick after I left, which was awesome. And made sure that my craft and all that and the networking was all ready because I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet. When I did leave, it was this weird experience where I had an offer from a video game company and I was pretty sure I was going to take it. And then last minute, I decided not to because partly because when I was working on video games, there were those days and where you're working till midnight on the video game and you wake up at 4 to work on the video game some more. And then you go back into the office and work on it some more. And you're never going to get your novels or your screenplays done. Obviously, there's days when you're not doing that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to publish all those books that I did.
Right.
But knowing that and knowing that's how a lot of video games companies work, I had to make the choice. Do I want to keep working on my author and screenwriter side, or do I want to be like 100% video game writer and not see my kids and all that stuff? So I went with the other one. The more fun option. Right, exactly. My mind. Some people in the listening are slapping me right now mentally.
maybe not. So we have you on because you actually just put out we're recording this on November 1st, so it's a couple weeks out before it's released. But on October 31st, you released Death Marked, and you co-wrote that book with Michael Laron. So before we kind of discuss that book, can you give the listeners the non-spoiler book blurb on what that book is about?
Yeah, I'll tell you even where it started too, just because that's kind of fun, which is not as much what it's about, but it leads up to it. It started with me reading Brandon Sanderson's book, Way of Kings, I think it was. And he has a prologue, and I think it's that book. And maybe I'm totally confused, and somebody can correct me. But there's this prologue where people are like in the afterlife and all this stuff is happening, and it's really cool. And then there's this other movie that I watched called Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's this scene in there where Star-Lord is using his device, whatever, to like see what the city used to look like. And when I first saw that scene, I thought he was seeing like actual spirits still there, like ghosts and stuff still roaming around in that city. And I was like, that's really cool. But then it wasn't. It was like a glimpse to the past, which is also kind of cool, but not the same thing that was in my mind. And so I approached Michael Laron with this idea, saying like something about spirits among us. Only certain people can see them. There's been a portal to the afterlife opened, something like that. And we spitballed, and we came up with what we have now, which is basically this guy sits off with a kind of doctor of sorts to try to bring his wife back from the dead because the doctor has studied the dark arts. Only in the middle of the ceremony, the doctor betrays him, tries to kill him in a blood sacrifice to bring his own lost love back from the dead and raise an army to protect them so that nobody can ever interfere with them again. And that's our story. Is this main guy now has to pretty much give up his quest to reunite with his lost fiance, his dead fiance, to save the world. And of course, he may or may not see her along the way, and there may or may not be tears.
May or may not be tears. So how did you get introduced to Michael, and how did you decide to ultimately go with him to co-write this book with you?
That was such a funny story. Well, because we both wrote teddy bear books.
Okay.
So that's the answer. But how that came about, let's see. I'd been on the self-publishing podcast with Sean Platt and Johnny B. True and David Wright. Mm-hmm. And he heard me through that. And I'd been on one or two others in between, I think. And then they had me on their show too, which at the time was the To Be Read podcast, which I think is no longer going. And he was like, hey, you wrote a book about teddy bears going into the Monsterlands to save a kid that was taken by monsters. So did I. And I was like, that is so weird and random. So we decided we should probably try to collaborate on something. And then I realized he had done all these decision select novels, which are basically like kind of like Choose Your Own Adventure, kind of like Telltale, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, let's do one of those together because that'd be kind of cool because I have Telltale games. You've done these already. We could make a whole empire out of it. And that's actually what Death Marked was at first, which is quite odd. We didn't really take that out until we were about 90% done with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. At the time, what we decided, because we had this whole idea of how book 2 would go, and book 2 would basically be 2 totally different books. You'd start at 2 totally different places, because at the end of book 1, you were able to be dark or light. It was like that white or black thing going on with that old game. Wasn't there a game like that back in the day?
There might have been.
Anyway, so it was like in the 90s, maybe early 80s. Anyway, so it was like that. But then we started thinking, you know what, if we want to really get this out in a timely manner, publish these, get audiobooks, and do all the stuff that we know how to do, that's just crazy talk. We don't want to be doing this for like 10 years. And then also we started looking at the choices, and we're like, there's some fun choices here, but for some people it's going to be not as cool of a read, because we don't, when you're working at Telltale, you have like 8 to 20 hours a day to focus just on that, because that's what you're getting paid for. But when you're doing a novel on the side, like an hour a day when you're lucky, you don't really have as much time to spend like making sure every single choice throughout is totally developed and totally as awesome as every other choice, and that all paths are amazing. And that's frustrating. Like, I don't feel like you should ever have a decision select or a Telltale style game where not all choices are as amazing as the other ones. You want to have the story be super no matter who's reading it, what choices they make. Mm-hmm. And so for the point of having an amazing story, we decided to just cut all that and just make it a novel instead.
Now, the other week I had Will Swartstrom on, and he has co-written 2 novels with his brother, and they use, I believe it was Google Docs to write the book. What kind of system did y'all use when you were writing this series?
Yeah, I like Google Docs. Google Docs is pretty cool. Sometimes what we would do is just switch off. Like right now, we're actually just switching off because we had some complications with Google Docs. It's more like formatting stuff, and he really likes to write in Scrivener. Mm-hmm. And then when you were importing it from Google Docs, it was a pain or something. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the details exactly, but right now we're just handing off Word documents back and forth. Like, I'll take it. Okay, I'm going on a writing sprint, and then so that's cool about that is we both have our own projects going on as well. Mm-hmm. So when it's my turn, he'll go and work on his own novel or whatever he's working on, and then I'll try to write as much as I can until I just feel, like my ideas are coming to a standstill, or it's just, I'm tired of it. I just want to break. Right. And I'll send it back to him, and then he'll do the same thing, which is really cool for progress being made. Because if that's your own novel, then it's just going to sit there doing nothing for a few days. But this way, it's moving forward and new things are happening. It also makes it very tough because, you might not have 100% buy-in into what the other person's coming up with creatively. So versus writing your own novel, in this case, you have to spend a lot of time reading over the other person's work, trying to see if you get it. And if not, commenting and revising and on both sides of it, of course. So that's pretty challenging. Something else that I did with P.T. Hilton, we wrote a series of Minecraft novels. Mm-hmm. And in those, what was really fun is we did 4 of them. I did book 1 and 4, and he did book 2 and 3. Okay. And then we just went back over and rewrote each other, but not changing big parts of it, just rewriting for voice so that we had consistency across all 4. And I like that way. It's so much easier. Right. But it only works for certain kind of books, I think, too. So
now, are you kind of in charge of the character development or the storyline, and he's in charge of the other, or are y'all just combining heads on everything for this?
The latter. Yeah, we're just straight up. Yeah. I think we had talked about doing it something like that the other way. Like, I know some people do that where one person writes the beats and the other one writes the story, mm-hmm. or writes it, and nah, I'm not that way. No way. I could see myself doing the beats and giving it to somebody else, but I kind of feel like, well, I don't want to not swear, but that's like grunt work, It's like kind of, okay, write my story for me. Go on and do it now. It's kind of like, on both sides though. On the one side, writing is super hard. So if somebody else gave me a beat sheet and then made me go write it, I'd be like, screw you. I'm not your little intern. Right. And vice versa. Either way, I feel like the little intern who's doing more work than the other person. So I don't like it regardless. So as we said, Death Marked came out October 31st. And the second book is called Death Bound, and that is scheduled to come out November 27th. How many books are going to be in this series altogether? Oh, that one's just 3. Just 3? So that's a straight up trilogy. Yeah. And what, you want a secret? You want to know a secret? Sure. Why not? An exclusive. Yeah, there's going to be something in book 2 that if anybody's read my fantasy series and they get to that point, they might catch on that they're connected somehow. And in future books, there's going to be other stuff like in my next planned book in my Allie Strom trilogy and maybe in my werewolf one, there's things that also you're gonna be like, wait a minute. Because kind of what we're doing is we're tying them all together. So that's the secret. It's going to be basically my fantasy books. There's 4 of them. There's 3 right now, and the 4th is outlined and started to write. That one becomes an urban fantasy in a weird way that you have to read to understand. Okay. And we were talking about this briefly before the show. Like, I totally failed to set it up that way because I thought it'd be really cool to just have the experience. And like, you know, as a reader, whenever I've heard readers get to these points where this stuff's happening, they're like, oh my God, mind blowing awesomeness. But you don't know that for the first book, which is like 300 pages. That's going to happen, right? I do a prologue like George Martin did where he kind of had the magic first. But I did that still in such a subdued way that you don't know for sure it's magic. It just might be a hallucination on the guy's part or something. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I probably should have rubbed it in their faces more. But anyway, so 3 books in that series and a lot of other books that might tie in some random ways. And we're also leaving it open, not leaving it open, but we're leaving things where if we wanted to, we could spin off more in the series, of course.
Okay. And so book 2, Deathbound, is up for pre-order now. Do y'all have a tentative date for when book 3 will be released?
Yeah, December 20th.
Oh, okay. So the whole trilogy will be out in a 3-month period. Oh, yeah.
We wanted to have them out for Christmas. And it's funny because the first book, we were like, it'll be done in like a month. And that one actually took us like a year or more.
That's funny.
Figuring out. But these next 2 have been like boom, boom, like 1 month each. So pretty nice.
So is there going to be audiobooks done for these?
Yeah, we have a narrator awesome. Already. Yeah, he's already working on book 1. So pretty sweet.
That is awesome. So I want to go back to how y'all kind of met, because I was going to bring this up in the interview. I was looking through your books today, and I came across your book, Teddy Bears in Monsterland, and that cover, I love that cover. It's just awesome. For those that haven't seen it, you've got this like Teddy Ruxpin-looking bear on the front cover with a pissed-off look on his face and blue flames on his hands. Where did this story idea come from? And then also, do you have the same person that does all the cover art for your book?
Oh, not at all. I'm glad you said that, because I've been wondering about that cover and wondering if I should redo it. So that's cool that at least one person likes it.
I love it. I think it's awesome.
Cool.
I bought it just because of the cover.
Oh, thank you. Somebody bought it.
You got one sale.
So that cover, I was kind of inspired by Shadow of Mordor, the video game. Okay. Have you seen that?
I have not.
You got to look at that cover. You'll see similarities that are totally different. In that one, the guy's basically walking towards you, but his face is down and his eyes are glowing, like with the fiery glow, because he has a spirit. Mm-hmm. That game, by the way, is awesome. We're calling Death Marked Shadow of Mordor meets Tomb Raider. Okay. Or Indiana Jones, if you want to go simplistic. Mm-hmm. But yes. So back to your question. Where did that cover come from, or the book idea in general?
The book idea come from.
Well, the book one kind of came from, but not really, because I had started it before this. I've always loved the Greek mythology, as I mentioned, and it played into my fantasy book. And I love the idea of Orpheus, or the adaptations of Dante's Inferno, which are a little bit different from the original Dante's Inferno. Okay. But the idea of a character going into hell to save his wife. Obviously, we did that with Death Marked kind of too. So right. Look at all these repeating things I'm doing here. Whatever. I'm original sometimes.
That's right.
When I feel like it.
That's right.
So I love that concept, though. Just the whole story of going into the afterlife to save the one you love, and that's what this was. So I said, okay, well, let's make it fun for kids, because I've always been a Disney guy. Like, I love Disney stuff. All those movies of the '90s and late '80s just tear at my heart. Yeah, I was listening to you're gonna laugh at me. I was listening to the soundtrack to Newsies today.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, old school. Yeah, that and like a lot of the Disney movies, like, because I went to the Disney convention D23 and Alan Menken was there, did this thing where he sung a bunch of the songs from that. And that's the kind of stuff that I was raised on, and I love it, because it's whatever, stereotypes and all that stuff aside, I think it does a great job on raising kids.
Right.
So I will fight that. Come at me, people who disagree. Anyway, so I wanted to write some books like that. And I wanted to say, if I was going to write a story for like Disney or Pixar, what would it be? And then I thought, well, that'd be really fun. This idea of instead of the wife just dying or whatever, monsters come and take the kid at night. And part of the inspiration that happened along the way, which I think same thing happened with Michael Aron, is there was this really famous picture on DeviantArt that was going all over the Facebook at the time with the little teeny teddy bear holding a wooden shield and a wooden sword. And there's this humongous monster over him and the kid's sleeping. And it says something like teddy bears defending their children since whatever,
right,
1879 or something. So basically that was a big part of the inspiration there, as I already had that first initial, like, what should it be, little idea coming into play in my head. And from there it just evolves. Like, I was like, well, I don't want to do the sword thing and I don't want to make it too much like a ninja. And then I thought, kind of, somebody pointed out recently, it's kind of like Care Bears. But the idea of, like, what it has here is why kids love night lights, and light is because that's what teddy bears used to fight the light. So as long as the night light's on, the teddy bear can pull from the light and use that to fight the shadow monsters away, and can actually defeat the shadow monsters with that light. And later on, I'm going to ruin the story, but I don't think you guys are my target audience anyway, so it's okay. Later on, well, you're going to read it, aren't you?
I'm going to read
it. I won't ruin it completely. Then
I bought the ebook. I bought the ebook and the audiobook. So
awesome! The audiobook's great. I love that narrator. He's doing my fantasy books for me too, which is totally different, but he does a way awesome job.
Awesome.
So I won't ruin it. I'll just say go read it. There's cool stuff that happens with the light and all that. It's not Care Bears.
There we go. What's your when you wrote it? What was kind of your target age group for that book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's tough because, right? Because teddy bears really, like, it's younger kids that like those, like 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds.
Right.
And this book is obviously not for 4 years and 5-year-olds. It's more for probably 8 to 10.
Okay.
As far as I've had a few parents tell me they played the audiobook for their 6-year-olds and their 6-year-olds were a little scared. So as long as you don't mind scaring your 6-year-olds, it's for 6-year-olds.
There we go. That works.
But yeah, it's definitely written more for 8 to 10-year-olds, and the style is more for them. And some kids I hope will get into the whole idea of that, because it is it is awesomeness.
Yeah.
It is teddy bears fighting monsters and having a good old time in an Orpheus fashion.
There we go. I listened to I guess you can call it a podcast that you were on a few months ago called Create a Story You Love. Yeah. And in that podcast, you had mentioned that 2 of your series kind of went together a little bit, and then you just mentioned that Death Marked, you might see some tie-ins with another series you wrote. So Do all of your books kind of tie into the same universe? And if so, is there a certain order that you would recommend reading them in? Yeah,
I would say it. Well, so the Teddy Bears one, I think, is the only one that would not tie in.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if any others wouldn't either. Oh, I have a literary / women's fic novel that probably doesn't tie in either. But I'm doing that under a pen name, so that doesn't count. Okay. And also I did the pen name for the Minecraft books, so that doesn't count either.
Okay.
But all the other ones, yeah. So what you're referring to, I believe, is Back by Sunrise and Allie Strom and the Ring of Solomon. What happens is the little girl from Back by Sunrise is the mom that the daughter has to save in Allie Strom and the Ring of Solomon. So that's fun. And then what I'm planning on doing eventually is, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but Allie Strom doesn't die. She's still alive in her book. And my plan is, those ones are middle grade. I want to have her come back in a book with my werewolf character, Hounds of God, main character. That is, I just put out the book on pre-release or pre-order, which will be available not till January. So sorry, suckers. But so they're going to show up together, and they may or may not show up with people who appeared in the other books, fantasy books specifically, and maybe this modern necromancy series, the Death Marked, in those ones.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a order. I don't care. I don't think it matters. Actually, I'm trying to write it in a way where it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because it's kind of fun if you just pick up the urban fantasy books like Death Marked and you read them, and then you're like, wait a minute, there's a connection to that, and then you go read those ones, even if it happened before, or if it's like for kids or something like that. It's still kind of fun in that way, because you might not be as into the kids one. So if you pick up Back by Sunrise first, you might be like, well, this isn't for me. I'm bored. I'm not going to read any of the other ones. And they're definitely not written in the way where you have to anyway, like I was saying. So although I will say that the one I have planned where a lot of these all come together, at that point, that might be tough. I want to write that one also where you could just read it on its own. But I might have to tell everybody, sorry, you got to go back and read these other ones first.
Buy my back catalog.
Yep.
There we go. I have one more fan question that I haven't asked yet, and I promised I would. Chris Porto from Geeks of a Certain Age he wanted to know how you soft launched with Insta Freebie so you could generate reviews and stuff on Amazon. He wants to kind of know about that process, why you did it, did it work?
Yeah. And what's fun is I think I was preparing that when I went and talked with those guys, like just getting ready for that. And I'm going to be on the Part-Time Writers podcast. I'm actually going to record that later tonight. So I'm not sure when they're going to air it. I think pretty soon. It might even come out before yours, depending on when yours airs.
This one's airing November 16th.
Oh, yeah. So I think it might actually be before that. But anyway.
Okay.
So I'll make sure to mention you on there, too. So we
Sounds
can
good.
So the question was the Insta Freebie thing. So actually, that's the main thing we're going to be talking about on that podcast, which is why I mentioned it. And Ashley Durr from Insta Freebie is going to be on there too, chatting about it with me.
Okay.
So that'll be a cool opportunity to get more in depth, like a half hour worth of in-depth information. But the simple version is what we decided would be fun is to put our book out there for free a month before it goes on Amazon. So it's just only exclusively available on Insta Freebie for free. And except for you have to sign up for the newsletter. So you provide your email address and you get the book for free. And we promote it. Insta Freebie promotes it. What we do is you set up this group promo where, like, on my blog, I just put 10 books next to each other that are all free, but you click on each one individually and get it if you want. And when you do, you sign up for their newsletter. And it says, you agree to sign up for their newsletter? Yes, I do. All that stuff. And so that group promo means that everybody who's on that page is also promoting it to their newsletters and their social media and whatnot. So you get a pretty good amount. Like, it wasn't as humongous because I think not everybody sends it to their people. But I know that, like, that one page got 14,000 views. So that's pretty nice. Yeah. And through this process, just Death Marked alone, I've done it with more books too, so it's even better. But just Death Marked alone has had over 5,000 downloads now. So free downloads on that. And that means there's subscribers to my mailing list also. So I can leverage that to hopefully get reviews and future purchases and all that. Mm-hmm. And through that process, what we did is we put in the back matter, the end of the book. We said, thanks for buying our book. If you liked it, we've listed it for pre-order on Amazon for 99 cents. You know, if you want to support us, you don't have to, of course. You got the book for free. You already read it. But if you want to support us, please go buy the book for 99 cents. It helps with our rankings and all that. Also, we're launching on October 31st. If you could leave us a review, that'd be amazing. That'll help us too. We really appreciate it. And, you know, if you do those things, we'll also make sure you're on the list, or not the review because you can't give away something. But we said if you buy book 2, we'll make sure that you're on the list for the ARCs when that time comes to see if you want to get the advanced reader copy of book 2. Okay. And we also said if you buy the pre-order, so we're trying to we're trying to get people to buy the pre-order, obviously. Mm-hmm. I have an audiobook for my book Knight's Curse, which is a werewolf story. It's kind of the precursor to Hounds of God, the new urban fantasy that I talked about coming out in January. Mm-hmm. And we said if you buy the pre-order now of this book, we'll also give you the audiobook of Knight's Curse, whoever emails me the receipt. So that was kind of cool. So we had a few people, good amount of people come through on that and saying, oh, I want to listen to that one, kind of get it. I bought the book. We ended up launching with 208 pre-orders, which isn't amazing, but my previous record before that was like 15. So it's good for me.
Yeah, there you go. And
we launched with 70, or I think it was 69 reviews, and now we're up to 73 the day after. So,
oh, wow.
Pretty cool. Yeah. And to put that in perspective, the first year I had published Land of Gods, because it's been out a little over a year now, that one just got up to 70 reviews like last week. And so the fact that we now have 73 reviews on the book we launched yesterday is also pretty outstanding for us.
Yeah. So it sounds like Insta Freebie is almost like BookBub, but better.
It's a totally different thing, but yeah. Like, you know, BookBub is awesome because it gets you the Amazon ranking. Like Insta Freebie, you get their book from their site, so that doesn't help your Amazon ranking at all.
Right.
But it gives you the newsletter builders, right? And then they're on your newsletter forever until they sign off or you kick them off or whatever. So in theory, they could be buying your whole back catalog, over years. And so that could be better than BookBub. Versus BookBub is a one-time thing. You get all that Amazon exposure, which is awesome, but you don't get them on your newsletter. You don't know who bought your book or any of that stuff. So really, they might just buy that one book and forget about you. They might not even read it because they just download it and forget. But if they're on your mailing list, you can send them an email 2 weeks later. It says, oh, I hope you're reading my book. It's really blah, blah, blah. Hey, if you whatever, reply to me, just let me know how it's going. I'll send you something or something like that. You can do whatever you want. You can't say I'll give you this in exchange for a review because that's against terms of services, but you can, do other things where you're showing your appreciation for them, and then they might respond and, wow, you're such a cool author. I don't talk to authors ever. And now we're talking to you, and this is really cool. And I've gotten a lot of responses like that. Like, oh, my son thinks you're awesome because he heard about Game of Thrones Telltale and he can't believe I'm talking to you right now and stuff like that. It's kind of a fun experience that you wouldn't get if you just go and advertise through BookWeb or something. I
guess I was kind of thinking NetGalley too, because NetGalley is one where
NetGalley.
You can go get free advanced readers copies of books.
So there's a lot of sites that do that. There's one called Sells also, and there's a BookFunnel now lets you do giveaways. There's lots of these, but I would say the big difference. I know I sound like an Insta freebie marketer right here, but I'm like, I drank the Kool-Aid and I'm drinking it right now as we speak. So
That's right.
It's in my veins. IV's pumping it into me. But what I was going to say is, the big difference here is they share you. I don't know how good of a job NetGalley does on that, but the more you share the Insta freebie stuff, the more they'll share you too. So why ours have done well is like, I'm out there sharing it all the time. I'm putting it on all these blogs and on, retweeting stuff like 10 times a day and all this, which I'm sure my Twitter followers get annoyed of, or maybe they love it. I don't know. But what's cool about that then is then Insta freebie sees that and they say, oh, this is one person that's helping support us. Let's support him or her also.
Okay.
And then they'll retweet you, and if you're really lucky and really, or not even luck, because almost everybody I know has gotten this at some point if they're sharing it a lot, then they'll feature you on their website. So they'll put a little interview with you up there on your picture and a link to your book, and that right there, I know a lot of people have gotten like 1,500 downloads just in a day from that.
Okay.
Or they'll feature your group promo and send it out to their newsletter of like 300,000 people. So then it's kind of like a BookWeb thing where you suddenly get a big jump in downloads that day.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'd say that's the big difference. Like if these other companies start copying that, then maybe they'll have a run for their money. But I see it as totally different services at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look more into Insta freebie. I know I signed up for one Insta freebie and I can't remember what it was. So I'll have to look more into it.
Yeah, well, some of these books are still on there. Deathmarked, even though it's for sale now on Amazon, we're keeping up on Insta freebie for another week.
Okay.
Or two. Oh, people who are listening to this episode, so sad. You have to go buy it for 99 cents. You're going to miss it.
You have to miss your coffee for a day.
Sorry. But what we're doing, and this is another thing that's interesting about Insta freebie, is a lot of people are putting up sneak peeks. So like if your book's in Kindle Unlimited, you're not supposed to give it away for free. But that first 10% sample or whatever it is, you could put that up there for free. Okay. So a lot of people will put that up there and call it a sneak peek or something like that, advanced chapter views or whatever, and then they'll give that away. Okay. And you would think, like, who cares about that? You could just go to Amazon and look at it, do the look inside or download the sample. But a lot of people are still going and downloading them and signing up for your mailing list. And sometimes they go and buy the book, or you could do something where you put at the end of that chapter, that thing, like, hey, if you really like this, email me and I'll send you the full book. If you want to give away the book anyway, but make sure you're getting people who are engaged. That way they're already emailing you and you're already having a conversation, and they now feel like you've given them something versus just putting something online that they just click a button and download.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it is good.
Well, here at the Legendarium, we like to end each episode on a segment that we call the Legendary Ending. These are just kind of some random questions that aren't necessarily book related. So just whatever comes to the top of your head. What songs are currently on your writing playlist?
I like soundtracks. I listened to the Tomb Raider soundtrack. It's really good. I hadn't thought about listening to video game soundtracks for a long time. I mean, I just never thought of it. And then the other day I was feeling nostalgic, so I put on like an old Nintendo video game soundtrack, and it just was like all these old Nintendo songs, like Tetris, Legend of Zelda and stuff. So good. And then like a week ago, I was like, wait a minute. Tomb Raider. What's that other game that everybody loves? Uncharted. These games. Why don't I try those? And those ones have really good soundtracks because they have like a little bit of a foreign feel, but they're also like intense because it's like kind of like thriller style, Mm-hmm. I tried like Beyond Two Souls and some of these other ones, and they get like all sad and you fall asleep. But so right now I'm listening to like the Tomb Raider and Assassin's Creed soundtracks quite a lot. So weird, different, not the normal music you'd think of, I guess. But also the soundtrack to Battle Royale, one of the best Japanese movies ever made.
Okay. If you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse, which one of your book characters would you want to be stuck with and why?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's easy. I mean, come on. Rohan is the name of Deathmarked protagonist.
Okay.
And he can control undead corpses and spirits. So obviously I would have him next to me and he would just control them and turn them back on everybody else who attacks us, and we could conquer the world.
There we go. So if you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse with any character from any kind of media source, who would you pick and why?
Daenerys, because we could fly away on her dragon together and burn them all.
There we go.
Yes.
If you had a time machine, where would you travel and why?
1985 so I can meet up with Marty McFly and we could travel the world together and just have a good old time.
There we go. Go into a time machine to go into a time machine. There we go.
Well, we'd have our 2 time machines together. We would just coordinate really well.
Yeah, there you go.
But if you're going to talk nonfiction, because that was a fictional answer, so that was a cheat. I apologize.
Hey, no, that's actually the first time I think that's been given. So there we go.
To not give that the one, I'd probably say if I could look Japanese, feudal Japan, just to see what that would be like and not get killed. Of course, I don't want to get killed.
Right.
So that's why I said if I could look Japanese.
There we go. And if you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
I think I should have prepared for that one. I probably did. I keep doing the exact same superpower in all my books, so why don't I just go with that, right?
Okay.
Obviously, it's a subconscious desire of mine to be able to control the dead. So
There we go.
well, I say that because I don't want to spoil it either. Okay, in one of my other books, another character kind of comes back from the dead in a totally different way. And through that process, it's part of this whole world that they have set up where then they gain kind of a magical power, but it's kind of based on if there's spirits around, you can kind of absorb those spirits, and then it gives you like mad, crazy mutant energy kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then there's the death marked one where Rohan can kind of do that stuff because of something that happens in the book. He gains those necromancy powers, and yeah, apparently this is like a thing in my head. Obviously, I don't think that'd be the coolest because I'd rather just be able to use magic powers without having to do anything. But if I want to be a well-rounded character.
There we go. And then the question we're kind of famous for here is a penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. What does he say and why is he here?
He says, "Hola, I have your time machine." And we go and we travel back to 1985 and see Marty McFly.
That sounds good.
What kind of answers do you get for that? I should have listened to more of those.
There's all kinds. I've where the chips and salsa. Those tacos better be good.
Get the best of. Do you ever do a best of penguin answers from?
I did. When I did it, I think it was when I did my year in review at the end of last year. It was kind of like my top 5 favorites. So, yeah. But that was for when I did my written interviews. So now we're in the podcast age now. So yeah.
Yeah. See, if that was in writing, I'd come up with some really cool stuff.
That's right.
I probably should have referenced Happy Feet in some way. He probably should have just started dancing, and then I would have started dancing, and that would have been a better answer.
Then you could have danced in your time machine to go back to 1985.
Yeah. I'm really obsessed with Back to the Future movies, for people who don't know. And then 1987 is when Princess Bride came out. And every time that's in movie theaters, I miss it. So it would have been really cool to see it, even though nobody else went, apparently, to see it the first time it came out.
And then before we leave, do you have any advice, whether it be for writing or for life, that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yeah. For writing and life, I think, is... like, this is one piece of advice I always give when I go to conferences and stuff is kind of keep every door open and make sure that you are ready to walk through those doors. So like for me, I was writing novels and screenplays. I didn't really think video games was going to be a thing, but I was keeping that door open and I was preparing my craft and I was playing video games because I knew that maybe it could be someday. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of fell on my lap. Like, I thought screenwriting would happen way sooner than video games would happen. But it happened because I was, not shutting any of those doors. I wasn't just saying, "Oh, I'm only a novelist." I was trying to improve my craft and always relate it right. I was even doing poetry, which I'm never going to touch poetry. I hate poetry, but I was doing it because I thought it would make me a better writer. And I think that applies in many ways of life. And I think it's been proven. Like, I've had a career where I was in the Marines. I was at the Department of Commerce doing trade and then post-conflict reconstruction. Then I was at the Federal Reserve Bank doing Asia policy, Asia analysis and policy and banking regulation. And then I went to Telltale Games, and then now I'm doing this thing at military.com and doing the other things. So the point is, like, if you focus on what you're passionate about, but try not to close off doors. Like, obviously I'm not going to go become a econometrics person because that sucks. I tried that once and I hated it. But if you like that, and you try to think of I'm only going to be this statistician or whatever, try to think of like a broader picture. Mm-hmm. I think that'll help you a lot of times in life. And then it's all about making sure that your resume is on par and making sure that you're networking as much as you can.
Sounds good. Where can our listeners go if they would like to learn more about you or your books?
Yeah, it's JustinSloanAuthor.com is probably the main one. And then I'm also on Twitter at Justin M. Sloan. So the first one was just Justin Sloan Author without the M, but I like to confuse people. and then Facebook's also the first one. So it's facebook.com/Justin Sloan Author.
Sounds good. Well, we will put links to all of those in the show notes over at legendarium.com so people can go check out your website, your books, and all that other fun stuff.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, guys, that's all the time we've got for this episode. Thank you for listening to 30-Minute Author Interviews, and we hope you come back next Wednesday and every Wednesday for a brand new episode. Justin Sloan has a giveaway associated with this episode. It's going to run until Friday, November 18th, 2016. He's giving away 5 Minecraft audiobooks, and everyone can actually get 3 free ebooks from him just by signing up for his newsletter. So head on over to legendarium.com and check out the show notes for more information. And until next time, guys, stay legendary. And if you would, wait and subscribe. It weighs about 250.